Steamy Greenhouse.
Steamy Greenhouse.
But it's Swedish with subtitles.
So it'd be Steamy Greenhouse. So I'd say it hit me square in the bridge of my nose.
I think it's probably a very sensible place to have a wank.
If they can't get the premise on the first hearing, leave them behind. Okay, so Sarah Millican, off we go.
When I lived alone, I really liked it. I really like living alone. But one of the things I love about living with somebody else again is I like the unpredictability of it. I like that every now and again a sentence will come out that I would never have said. The most recent one, out of nowhere, he just went, "Your shed's no good to have a wank in." And I said, "That's because it's a greenhouse, love."
On the face of it, we've got, can we call it a wank joke?
Yes, I think we could. Well, that's what she's called it, I suppose, yeah.
But we can clearly see the reference to 1970s porn, to the Swedish little movie about the man who goes to buy a greenhouse. Swedish, I think it is. Did I say that? He goes in to buy the greenhouse, says, "I've come to buy a greenhouse." The woman says, "Yes, that's fine. I'll show you the greenhouses." He said, "Okay, thank you." They go to look at the greenhouse. They go in. He says, "Oh, it's quite steamy in here, isn't it?" And she says, "Yes, it is." She removes her fleece, and the narrative continues in the classic tradition.
So as a cinematic reference, that's what you're saying. She's
exactly what
here.
I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that film, I've got to say. What's the name of the film?
It's just called Steamy Greenhouse.
Steamy Greenhouse.
But it's Swedish with subtitles.
So it'd be Steamy Greenhouse.
Yes,
like that.
Yeah, or the Dutch version is that anyway. Yes.
Yeah.
Dutch version's even better, actually. It's worth
Same
trying
plot?
to find that. No, completely different plot.
They're in a windmill.
There's tulips. It's rather more romantic, actually, as I remember it.
Well, I've got to say that went over my head, that one. But it's nice. I love a cinematic reference myself. So although I didn't get the reference, I can definitely appreciate good cinema. So I think I've subconsciously maybe I've gotten something out of that.
Probably you have.
Yeah. So I say it went over my head. I don't think it did actually. I think I got the reference.
Okay. So where would you say it did go? Sort of chestal area?
No. Well, over my head would be me not getting the joke.
Yeah.
Below the head would be me getting the joke a bit too much, I think. So I'd say it hit me square in the bridge of my nose. I love this one. I absolutely love it. There were just a few slight changes that I would make to punch this one up, if I could use that term.
You can.
If we start this one again, let's go back to the beginning.
When I lived alone, I really liked it. I really like living alone. But one of the things
She's repeated herself there, hasn't she?
When I lived alone, yes.
When I lived alone, I really liked it. I really like living alone. You should never repeat yourself as a comedian. Absolutely never repeat yourself. Sometimes what you'll see is the newer comedians, they'll repeat the premise of their joke again and again. What that means is they're enabling short attention spans, aren't they? You don't want to pander to your audience. If they can't get the premise on the first hearing, leave them behind. Yep, because that's not the audience that you want. You don't want them there for the end of the joke if they can't pay attention for the beginning of it. So I would say...
you'd be wanting them to leave, probably at that point. You'd leave a little pause, and if they haven't got it, ship out.
Yeah, well, they could literally leave the venue, or, I might go to a different venue and say, anyone who was listening to that first part of the joke, you can join me in a separate, maybe there's a separate function room you could go to for the people who are actually paying attention. But for anyone who needs you to repeat it 2 or 3 times, I've got no time for that, and neither should Sarah.
I like that every now and again a sentence will come out that I would never have said. The most recent one, out of nowhere, he just went...
Just pause it there if we could for a moment. Now, Sarah's doing her best.
Yep.
There's been no laughter yet, has there?
No, I did notice that. I picked up on that.
And I think we can also see Sarah's growing anxiety at the lack of laughter.
Yeah.
Now, she's got a narrative in her head that she's pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at this point, the pro-comedian in her kicks in, which is her.
Yes.
And she thinks, as we all do, I'm going to use one of my laughter cue words. Mm-hmm. And we put some of these on the website. We'll talk about that later for anybody watching.
Yeah.
One of hers is wank. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. Jizz is another good one. There's quite a few that will almost always... ket is another one.
Ket, that's a good one, yeah.
She'll know these. She's thinking, I haven't got a laugh. I'm going to say wank. So off she goes. She says wank. And if we move on a little bit further,
yep,
the word wank elicits the laugh.
Well, let's see what you're talking about there.
Your shed's no good to have a wank in.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
No, she was probably going to go on to talk about allotments or gardening, all terrific areas for comedy that the audience will relate well to. But wank, it's got what she wanted.
It's a classic. It's a banker, wanker.
Yeah,
there's something there, isn't there?
Very good. There is a wizard. Yeah.
Well, I could message her actually, and I could say, have you thought about doing something with your wanker banker?
Yes.
Because that's
wanker.
Yes.
Yep.
So are you going to message her or shall I?
Let's both do it.
Okay, at the same time, from separate accounts.
And I said, that's because it's a greenhouse, love.
Okay. Shall I tell you what I'm thinking? She's introduced this character of the husband into the joke, which, for my money, isn't necessary. Mm-hmm. What's the core of this joke? The core of this joke is it's a mistake to masturbate in a greenhouse. That's the core of the joke. And introducing the husband into it is an unnecessary step to ask of the audience, I think. She could just say that. She could just say, it's a mistake to masturbate in a greenhouse. And then it's first person, she's involved. Maybe she could say, I masturbated in a greenhouse once. That was a mistake. And she could do this.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked about the word wank, haven't we? Mm-hmm. We haven't talked very much about the greenhouse, which is the second laugh she gets in this routine. She gets on the word greenhouse. Why have they laughed about the word greenhouse? Because you could think, well, it's because there is jeopardy in masturbating, to use your word, in a greenhouse. But if we think about it, as a Millican audience will, and a greenhouse is full of plants, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think it's probably a very sensible place to have a wank. Plenty of foliage, plenty to hide behind it. It's ideal. So
there's cover. There's cover.
It's
there,
cover.
Yeah.
Literally, there's cover. Yeah.
I decided to look at the comments on this video because I enjoyed it so much. I thought, what did the audience think of this? So I want to read out the top comment on this video and see what you make of it. I'm hooked on Sarah. She's the last thing I see and hear before I drift off into the arms of Morpheus and dream of hilarity. And the first in the AM starting my day off with laughter. Thank you, Sarah. What did you think of that?
It's a worry.
It's slightly there. Well, the implication there is that they every night they watch Sarah Millican videos before they go to sleep, and then as soon as they wake up, they watch Sarah Millican videos. It's a obsession, isn't it? That
it's beyond obsession. It's almost obsessive.
I would say so. Yeah. Do you think anyone does that with the Joke Clinic?
Well, I hope they don't. I hope everybody out there is using the Joke Clinic wisely. So much and no more. You know, especially if you're driving.
Enjoy
or
responsibly.
using heavy machinery. If you've got a job driving heavy machinery, hand in your notice, work the period of notice, obviously, and then enjoy the Joke Clinic more than hitherto.
Yes. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Do comment down below if you have a recommendation for a comedian that you would like us to take a look at, or it could be one of your routines. Just comment down below, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Thank you. I think it's probably a very sensible place to have a wank because there's plenty of foliage.